Michal, welcome to the NeuralPod today. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm good. And yeah, I'm busy with a lot of things to build, but yeah, happy to chat about it, happy to discuss and share some ideas.
Yes, thanks for making the time. I think we first got to know each other when you went to ShareChat, but before that, you've had quite a good career in games development, and also spent 3 years as a software engineer at ByteDance and doing some cool real time machine learning there. And now at Lex, do you want to just give the people a more of an introduction into your career and how it shaped into you now running a legal AI startup in Lex? And as you say, busy building.
So, as you mentioned, I did video games when I started my career, but I think a bit step before that, I actually learned programming in high school. So, already back then, I was doing sorts of developments, freelancing. And that time I was already quite fluent with PHP and C++, doing different sort of projects, which already started with Visual Basic and very thin book, but practical examples that was laying around at my house. But pretty at some point I realized that there is certain power coming with the computing or like having the skill to like fill the blanks computer screen with some impressive maybe computations, maybe graphics. And because I was gaming a lot at that time, that then the very first application came to me as video games and graphics, which was at that time developing at very fast speed. Or like over the 3, 4 years, there were coming different generations graphic cards and different new technologies involved. And and over the like decade, the graphics iterated so fast, and that was like very tangible iteration of the like innovation in that field that you could experience, and that was moving really the imagination that I had at the time. So I thought I pretty much every studio had to create something, some technical selling point to sell their title to allow to experience the gamers with something that they couldn't experience in any other title. And that was yeah, that was very inspiring then to try to build something like this at this or the other studio. So that was what got me into video games, and that also helped to uh, like have this performance-oriented mindset because the games still this day have to process a lot, and there's a lot of optimizations going on. And actually, after having this in my workshop, this was what helped me to also be hired by ByteDance because when there is a data, a lot of data in the top companies, that also requires some skill to write that code that is pretty performant at scale and optimize the systems.
Yeah, and talk to me about. Sounds really interesting, by the way. Talk to me about ByteDance. I know a lot of people speak highly of the engineers that work at ByteDance, and under the hood, it's known for its real time machine learning, etc. What did you learn there, and how did you find being hands on there?
Good question and good memories. So actually, I had a chance to work with some really brilliant engineers there. So we worked with the Mountain View office, and then later I worked also with the Beijing office. So first area was the intelligence creations department, and it was about creating the libraries that would process graphics, or with CPU, or with GPU, or with any machine learning models. And that would be then combined in the stickers. So essentially, we were attaching the ears and nose and ears of the dog or cat to human faces for sake of the content creation. That or some more maybe less or more impressive filters that would be combined, for example, for the and then it was very famous and viral unicorn face. So the morph of person would get morphed into unicorn very seamlessly, very perfectly on the device. And yeah, I must say it was very, I like that environment much more than actual video games that I worked before because of some product way thinking, about some research way thinking, and the architecture that we had. And yeah, like as far as the architecture of the video game engine was very similar, but there it was more subtle, more flexible, and more tailored to with the same set of libraries run both on the very restricted mobile device capabilities, with even with the inference in place operating both with GPU and also being deployed on the cloud Linux machine. So with even with no GPU at all. So that was
Mhm.
very interesting and yet simple architecture. So adapting the, let's say, current proprietary game engine would be massive undertaking to bring them to such application than to comparing to the technology they've built in within a couple of years inside ByteDance.
And yeah, then on to ShareChat, which is not quite as a gigantic scale as TikTok, but still huge in their own right. My understanding of ShareChat, there's essentially a lot more
Yeah.
kind of 0 to 1 projects, and how did you go from probably having every tool under the sun to having to be a bit more resourceful at ShareChat, and what was it like working on machine learning there, and kind of lessons learned there?
So essentially, after working on some graphics and filters, and later on also on some cloud deployments at high scale, I was called by ShareChat that hey, like there is this Indian social media company aspiring to compete with the other big tech companies, and yeah, like they need somebody that would be able to help them build similar things, who has seen how it would work on the big tech companies. So I've been speaking with two departments. So one was like the AI for the recommender system, the other one was for the graphics. And actually, this more of the graphics niche was the first choice to help them. And the initial idea was to optimize their effect engine into something that would run with more effects on mobile. So to help their content creation to extend the funnel and convert more users or have more content, because more content means more audience, more users means more revenue. And in that sense, I was building a couple of extensions there. The idea was to also be able to deploy these modules on the cloud, because India has big problem of the coverage. So let's say China, US, they can target high tier devices, let's say iPhones or such, because at that time the low end devices were in the West maybe was 20%, still big, but not as that big when covering. But in India, there are a lot of the low tier devices. So one of the workarounds was, hey, how about we try at least compute something on the cloud, on the servers for the clients. So maybe that was the market driven uh, uh, adaptation of what how we can work around with technology. So that was the first thing. And after having a couple of projects, actually the department was closed, and I was lucky to transition to the recommender system. And I was optimizing the cost on the recommender system pipeline.
Oh, okay, and that brings us on to Lex AI, which is a legal tech AI company that you founded with some of your peers, which we'll really get into in the next part of the podcast. But in terms of machine learning fundamentals and having worked at some excellent companies like ByteDance and ShareChat, what kind of fundamentals really helped you and are transferable across the different companies where teams and businesses are set up differently?
That's a good one because many people would think about machine learning as an action, like, hey, we train a model and then we'll get some cool value or we can offer something. But if you would ask any machine learning engineer, they will tell you that, yeah, like training is cool, but 80% even of the time they spend on data. And as in any engine or any compute, like garbage in, garbage out. So then a lot of thinking and focus come into data. Do we have the data at all? Yeah, that's sometimes very big problem. So if somebody has like thousands of rows in database, that seems to be very a challenge at its own to train something on such like scarce data. When somebody has a lot of data, then it's better. But then there's question: okay, what is the quality of that data? Is it consistent? Does it have any holes or whatnot that needs to be then cleaned, understood, prepared? And then also when training, you can try in like different methods good for given problem, but some of the fundamental optimizations can be even in the feature engineering. So again, how do we can prepare the data so this even the simple gradient descent or any other deep dive on that descent that is best suited for a problem, how that actually optimizes to the way that we would like to achieve, like where we can not run something and get a good result, but how we can actually get this result that gives us the value that our company needs. If it's something that we have, let's say, in segmentation for the images, or if it's something for recommendations, so predicting what next post could be clicked or engaged the most. Because yeah, like now we have many of the shelf methods or algorithms, so sometimes I wouldn't even need to train something to get the decent quality of the result. So for example, I could go to the Hugging Face and try this or that to see if, as a proof of concept, this may work or may not work. But in the at scale, it's another problem that sometimes people specialize so much and they are chasing the numbers in so much detail that 1% is a big number or big impact on the organization or on the results. If we want to optimize down to like the gain of the 0.001, which sometimes matter, this is where we have to put a lot more huge resources to go from, let's say, 90 to 90.01 rather than to go from 50 to 51 or 55. And again, understanding the data helps to see what is possible, what is achieving, or what method we need to apply to get there.
This may be a silly question, but do you think everybody does that in your career, starts with the data first, or are people trying to maybe implement a fancy model without it, and potentially not done the step before the step?
Funny you should ask. Like for example, when I was helping or exploring startups in EU, like before I joined Lex AI, I've seen that in every capital in EU there was startup accelerator, and each of them there was AI drafting, like contract drafting for legal startup. Every single one. And when I came across Lex AI, they actually seem like they don't have this drafting, at least not yet, but they are gathering the data first. And there was some also data examples like or work done by human. So that was also sensible baseline for any other generation or evaluation that we could then derive. And that was one of the reasons that, hey, like somebody does this differently or has approached like step before actually jumping into training or drafting or generating anything. And that is one of the fundamentals that we have. And later on, we even came into partnership with one company that was doing the drafting because they had some know-how on the legal side. They have the legal license. But if you draft today with the current regulation, yeah, like how do you ensure that this drafting will be up to date within half year later for your clients? So you need again the up-to-date data from somewhere to actually make your service sensible and again giving value.
Super interesting. Yeah, we'll get onto that shortly. Super keen to explore it. But in terms of moving on to kind of next part, I know, yeah, just something I picked up on when we first chatting a while back. You've obviously got your MBA. Congratulations on that, by the way. And also, reached a quite a high level in machine learning. I think that mix of business acumen and being able to zoom into technical models and then maybe zoom out what's the business impact is, yeah, I'd say unique. What made you pick your MBA, and do you think a formal business qualification like that has helped you, but now you're building Lex?
Good question. So I could explain a lot when I started why I would do it, but nowadays I just used to say because of the curiosity. And yeah, like I've seen many things happen in different startups in different places, and as somebody building things, like as an engineering person, I was okay. I'm solution oriented. I want to create the best solution I can. Then I had a lot of sometimes doubts why something works or is managed the way it is. So yeah, I think for engineers, it's like we are solution oriented. We think with solutions. If you tell about something, we are used to okay thinking how to solve your problem or what is the problem that you're telling us about. And when like think about the business, it's more about what I may have to offer, or like look what somebody is dealing with, and is there anything that we can help with this sort of area. So if you ask me what MBA will help any engineer, the answer is with pretty much nothing, because it's more of this shift in perspective or thinking. And many times I've seen young people deciding on the studies, and when connecting with the uh, other managers and directors that I've met during the MBA course, was like, yeah, first it would be good usually to have some concrete skills, whatever it is. It's maybe like accounting, law, engineering, anything that helps first to build like the personal proficiency and trust that I'm very good at given domain and I'm a good specialist expert. And then usually any kind of management qualifications help them to extend that into building more, managing people or managing projects or whatnot. And when engineering uh, candidates ask, okay, like I have the like study to pick, so I will pick computer science. So I assume that the instruction for my career is that I will finish the studies, I will get a good role in some reputable company, and then I will like continue my career, and that's the instruction. With also with good company probably comes good paycheck that will allow to support the family or live comfortably, which is in many cases true. And yeah, so even if I would ask, yeah, what do I need the business degree actually? So then it's not as simple that if I finish the business degree, then I get the management job. Because then again, or it builds on some prerequisites, or it is some kind of I manifest that I put energy into being a good partner to business or to the venture or something like this. That makes me think, okay, what I can offer somebody, like what we can solve for somebody before jumping into solution phase.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like it's helped you become more customer orientated and yeah, look closer to what the problem is, well, the solution and what you're trying to actually solve. So cool. And yeah, moving on to kind of more the startup environment and Lex AI, I feel like in the last year, certainly from a recruitment perspective, it's become cool to join a startup again. Lots of amazing big tech folks like yourself who have been working on large scale systems like TikTok or Meta or Spotify, and now deciding that they want to get up in the startup game. Do you what's one big mindset shift engineers or leaders have to make when moving into a startup from a large tech company?
It can be quite different, but apparently, even at ByteDance, you can imagine big company, they still after 12 years consider themselves a startup. And inside, I would say that there was this also high momentum and ease of tooling and environment that made it enjoyable to or like proficient to work with when compared to maybe some usual corporations. And the bigger the organization, usually it comes with some processes which are there in place to prevent some errors or prevent reputation loss or prevent client loss. There are also more middle management layers that also help to get this whole thing together, focus, align on the goals, align on the client or market demand. But then we have this big another player, this organization. So with startup, yeah, like I was when I work with our organization, I've seen that somebody takes 2 months to release something or even 2 months to kick off the project. I was laughing that yeah, in a startup I would do two pivots in that the same time because of how sometimes fast or adaptable the process needs to be. So also it's interesting to see the original Agile manifesto that was done 25 years ago compared to the Agile processes that are currently in the big corporations. And yeah, like it's about a lot of a lot of exercise into how we can do what we do, but or maybe not faster, as in how we can click maybe more times per second than we used to do, but how we can cut corners sometimes more to get straight to the point of what we offer, or straight to the point what somebody needs, or straight to the point of some kind of prototype with which we can discover if what we think is what somebody needs, or based on that get the feedback faster. How we can cut straight to the feedback that would help us to discover the obvious. That some company established companies already are at the obvious, that when somebody sees that and declares it, it's yeah, it seems obvious. But when doing navigating the ambiguity of some business problems, some clients, like many customers, how to deliver the value to them, navigating this market fit is like trying to seeing a lot of things, but trying to notice what is this obvious thing that we should to do to actually deliver this valuable service to people that they say, oh yes, I need it, exactly this.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's super interesting. And moving on to kind of Lex AI, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the legal monitoring and regulatory complexity using AI. What inspired the idea there, and kind of what core problems are you trying to solve? I feel like Gen AI and the legal tech space are primed to work together. So yeah, what talk us through what you're building?
Yeah. So actually, company was created before I joined in, so I'm kind of late founder. And before me, there were some other technical founders. And the vision for the company was well different, as in more LinkedIn for lawyers. It was supposed to gather different law professionals and give them stream of the legal updates and help them together like create community around discussion about what this or that law means actually. And then of course have some model training based on the content on the platform. But over the time, it was refined, or like after having some first clients, it distilled into the mission of making the regulatory changes easy to digest for lawyers, because uh, many legal teams are still using the same office tools as they were using like 20 years ago, and many processes are still in a spreadsheet. And the idea is that we could create this legal radar over what comes in and what comes next. So, so these people could spare some time for the creative work, actually, than just tedious document swapping and document work that is, yeah, sometimes people with a lot of experience, experts needs to do this, yeah, like manual document crafting and so on, which can AI can help. And for me, I usually tell a story that what we do is imagine somebody has to sign off that, yeah, like they are clear for some audit or they are clear for some business assignment based on the regulations that are in place or new regulations coming. And this sign off usually means responsibility, so they probably think twice before going with it. And then imagine you have to do it. It's evening on Thursday, and would like to sign off, but you maybe are not sure yet. Yeah, maybe something new came up. Maybe you can double check. So you could then, yeah, like browse number of pages from authorities that have the sometimes 200 pages per each regulation, just to double check and digest if there isn't any quirk. Or you could log into Lex AI, filter by recency, see if there is any news, or is there any summary about it? And that would be probably more like 4 pages just to review. If you feel confident, sign off and go spend evening with your children.
Nice. Um, okay, and yeah, you touched on it at the start of your point there that people still in Excel sheets and potentially still some filing cabinets hanging around in certain legal offices. Do you feel, and this is potentially not just a problem with AI, do you feel there's a resistance to people wanting to adopt these systems in heavily regulated environments like the legal space? And yeah, what's your experience there?
Yeah, so is the resistance? There is always resistance, because if you're experienced enough, then you will notice that every person at some point just is resistant to any change, and that's totally natural. So, and as I left, like especially in Germany, people are very used to some some habits, don't like changes, and that makes it even harder. So I usually like to visualize that, yeah, like in California, we have some very cool visionaries changing the world, like doing grand projects that are trying to solve everything in a very broad way, creating almost like this tech utopia. And at the other extreme of the spectrum, we have the European, or even better, German, some regulatory teams that would like to see the world black and white and continue as they used to do it for last 30 years. The problem is like the world is changing anyway, and if you have a company, you know that if you don't adapt to what happens in the world, you may go out of business. And yet experts are usually so much focused on what they do and how to do it faster, more effective, that sometimes they don't really have that time to notice that how much changed over time and how much there is has like pressure or stress has accumulated over time. So that's why then like if you ask somebody to do something one day faster, Like they will think how to improve the process, but there needs to be some bigger eye opener. Like, hey, like, can you do it 1 month faster? Like, how can you break from some habits because we have something new that may help you to work a bit differently or to adapt to a bit more maybe convenient more work. And this is the not only working with people and like noticing what they are thinking, how they are working. It's about noticing the workflows. So how, if there is a team, how do they usually work with some legal updates and how we can fit our service towards their workflow rather than creating this like Silicon Valley style, hey, we have this new Flumbus and it will solve all your problems. Please use it. Yeah, it's so cool. It's so awesome. So and everybody has it. So this is
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
problem.
Really well put.
And
Yeah.
on top of that, even if we have people working on some workflows, again, on the surface, you might not notice, but if somebody's experienced enough, they start to notice communication also between these people and the politics sometimes. Yeah, so sometimes something doesn't make sense, but in terms of that organization, some politics make it work this way. Even that's maybe not the most optimal way, but it is the way it is. So, like we see now, Gen AI cool, but if we see even now the most recent trend is agents, also cool. But if we jump to agents too soon, it may look cool at the demo and on LinkedIn, but then if you realize the usual company organization workflow, this workflow needs to be meticulously mapped and laid out in terms of something that automation can understand before throwing agent at it and it will figure it out. Because then it will be another layer of mess and it will be hard to operate. And I think recently Walmart had this use case where they did agent everything and then they did a step back to automate the workflow that can be supervised.
Hmm. Interesting. I think that segues nicely onto some of the ML systems that are powering the Lex AI platform. Do you want to just talk us through what's going on under the hood?
Yeah. So since it's very lean and smart startup, it's some people expect AI to be chatbot, and we indeed do have chatbot, but I wouldn't focus so much on chatting feature as much on think about more as a database. So more like Bloomberg for legal monitoring, because if we accumulate a lot of data, a lot of regulation, a lot of updates, then the next thing we would like to do is to search efficiently through these updates and search and optimize the search for the legal domain with, for example, how the legal people would filter this data to navigate to what they are using the most of what they are looking for the easiest. And then on top, of course, we have this AI layer. For example, you could with proficient search, we can find the information and then glue with AI into some constructive assembly that will answer the questions that people might have, or help them find the in one place, help them find useful information from number of jurisdictions. So yeah, so from the more technical point for me, yeah, I don't want to have the headache of managing database because I have a lot of things going on. So I have managed database that can grow into gigabytes. So this is one thing. Of course, there is the vector search enabled and embedding storage. That's combined together. So we have very convenient and fast full text search, also compared with the semantic search. So again, or by words or by vectors. And that sits as our like fundament for any other logic that we can do on top. And if we look at the content journey, of course, we have hundreds of sources we watch, and this is automated. So we have, like we maybe not yet agents, but I've looked very carefully how it was done first manually by people with legal knowledge, and then that was implemented into automated workflow that runs for each of the authorities we have, and then that comes through some content understanding, then some metadata prediction based on the historic content, and then with that we have candidates to be released, published on our platform. And there is also human in the loop. So if anybody asks us, okay, cool, but isn't this just some hallucinated Gen AI slop? It's not, because it has to pass the gate of the our legal team that has good legal domain knowledge. So then it gets
Yeah, that
published.
that that was going to be.
Yeah, and I've
Sorry, go on.
I've talked with some other people doing similar systems. There usually is one spot with human in the loop, especially in the legal world, because yeah, how else you can verify the quality? So that comes.
Yeah, exactly. That was going.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
please go.
then we have the platform, we can search it, but also we have quite extensive notification system built in. So if we have any people watching or like monitoring the news, then they usually want to be notified about what they feel relevant. So or they can like set some filtering on what they want to receive, or we are, for example, experimenting with some very simple recommender system also inside. And examples that I could see
Nice.
here is like there is one query that is like multi-stage that I could do something almost similar as the Elasticsearch re-ranking that is in the newest version. So it works quite well out of the box. Yeah, so pretty much if you have any homegrown content system, Elasticsearch saves you a ton. But for several reasons, I'm treating that as a baseline, and then for special use cases, and then our big database is Postgres, and I'm building on top of that a lot of tools, or like rebuilding the features that some other more specialized database could offer because of the size and easier way to manage the volume of the data growing.
That was interesting, and yeah, you kind of touched on it there in terms of hallucinations. Anywhere where AI is summarizing text, I think it's now people say, "Oh, what about hallucinations?" So you're saying, human in the loop. That's the way you've kind of solved it. Because I imagine any hallucination in the legal world is potentially fatal.
Yeah, I would say again there are two extremes. Yeah, so we have this AI, which is sort of statistical way of digesting the text and transferring one text to the other text. And then on the other side, we have lawyers who see world black and white. And on the one side, we have like 1 to 100% confidence, or like probability that something is something. And on the side, we have the black and white, good or bad. And if bad, then you have a problem. You have a big problem, an escalation probably. So this is where the workflow is first thing, and this is where like understanding how to translate or what is good enough comes into play, because that what also happens in other areas. So let's say we do 60% correctness, then the most of the consultants in the US are happy and they can tell a story already. But if we come to lawyers, and especially in Germany, then sometimes you have one like 90%, 95. Yeah, it's getting somewhere, I would say. That's I sometimes love that LMs would never happen in Germany, because unless it's 99.99%, then it wouldn't be
Yeah,
considered ready, and it would take much more long time.
fair enough. And what do you think the biggest challenge is building systems in legal tech space right now?
So, of course, I would say it's not about creating the best foundation model, perhaps, unless you go to these people and ask them what they need or how they work, or what is the smallest step that we can pilot so they gain trust that, okay, this automation helps them, uh, and it's not replacing them, because there's still some discussions like that. So we are not replacing anybody, but we want to help them to do more of the creative work. And this is where working with the actual consultants that help these companies comes into play. And this is one of the, I think, one of the biggest wins we had in the recent time is that we partnered with Deloitte. And Deloitte is one of the big four consulting companies that if anybody has risk, and because businesses are about managing the risk, if anybody has any risk and they want to move that somewhere or pay somebody a lot of money to manage that risk, that would be for many companies, Deloitte, for example. And they have some methodologies and they have tools that they have a very standard in working with legal compliance. And this is what we are together now uh, working with to see what workflows do they have and how we can not only digitalize some of these workflows so it's faster and many people can seamlessly work on it, but also how to give instant insight based on the data that we already have in the platform. So
Yeah. Okay. I know obviously Deloitte's, like you say, a Big Four consultancy. Amazing achievement, by the way.
thank you.
Congratulations to you and the team on that. I know you also worked incredibly hard on that. Um, but what, would Lex be suitable for small in-house teams as well, and smaller, I guess, law firms as well as bigger organizations like Deloitte?
So Deloitte is more of like know-how partner. And of course, they would like to serve more companies of growing low complexity. That's why they need a tool and they recognize, let's say, as a good tool for legal monitoring. And this is how they can provide their services better. And this is how, like, usually big companies turn to Deloitte. So this is where we can see like full overview of what is palette of the legal problems that we are dealing with. But I would say uh, any size of the company would be good if they want to try or they want to use. Still big enough to have a legal team that needs to watch if the business is compliant with services. So that's usually like more than 300 or more headcount at the headquarters. So more like small and medium businesses up to like some maybe big discount chains in Germany that also work with us, because if we think about the biggest, then there is the biggest competition on the, let's say, from Harvard or such companies with much more ambition.
Nice. Yes. Okay. I've got some friends in the legal tech space, so I'm going to mention it to them for sure. Um, let's talk about product market fit. I know, it's not just a problem specific to the legal tech space or legal AI space, many people know, and finding it can be a real challenge. We've talked about the journey from exploration to research to development of a product briefly in the past. Can you walk us through your approach to finding product market fit? And I will caveat that with I totally understand there's no silver bullet for these
Yeah,
things.
that's true. So many people look around, especially if that's some like combinator like Rockstars. They usually have success, so they don't tell, yeah, we did it that way, and then many people like to follow. Okay, if you do this, then you will get success. But it turns out they had different sort of factors and environment that what they did is actually the story after the fact that it worked out. And pretty much it's always, I think, about the determination. So what I, for example, also on the MBA studies, what I thought, okay, I will now know how to do a valid business plan or startup pitch for example, for VC. So yes, no. So first, I've learned that yeah, I have enough tools or knowledge to craft the pitch deck and business case that would not fail. Yeah, so let's say it's 50% better than maybe of the it's 50% of the base of the grade maybe that you would get. But then anyway, the rest of the 50% is the team. Yeah, so somebody might see, okay, do they have enough? Are they enough smart or clever to find some market, some business case to, or like some angle to the market that would make them better than any other trying the same idea? And is this team good enough to make it work, to cooperate, and then if market changes, adapt and spot what is their next that they actually wouldn't know at the time of creating the pitch? And I think this is also the part of the uh, looking at the feedback, like when approaching people, approaching companies, iterating very closely on that feedback, and then saying like, okay, I have maybe some vision, but what is out there in the wild that happens? And I think the good case could be in the Hagen phase. So they had one vision, but because they were out there in the wild with their company already operating, uh, this is where they spotted, okay, people behave differently. They see some value, but in the different thing that we offer. So let's say I'm doing the coffee shop, I'm serving coffee. I always dreamed of serving coffee, but for some reason, people like this machine that I use for coffee. They would like to do it in their homes. So now for me, it's a big decision. Okay, do I keep the vision and try to force it, or I will maybe try selling the machines? So this is uh, another good use case was, let's say, can we offer something before it's built even and see and gauge the interest and see the feedback there? Because again, it's all about how we can cut shorter to the point of getting to see interest or see the feedback from people and optimize for that niche and capturing that niche and seeing how far we can go and how people, uh, how valuable people think it is.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it there in terms of listening to feedback. Um, how do you balance that frameworks from what is in reality? Constant feedback that you're potentially getting may feel messy or unpredictable. How do you balance what the books are telling you to what's actually going on? And you've
Yeah,
touched on it before. You might have pivoted 2 times already. You know, how do you know? And again, I appreciate there's no silver
yeah.
bullet, but
I mean,
how do you balance all the moving
there's, I'm
variables?
afraid there is never a good answer. And it's usually like, okay, it's best effort to try to get as close as possible. But if we have any feedback from the customer, this is like the gold thing. So first thing, we do the feedback from customer. Like I would even say there are a lot of effort into actually getting the feedback, even with tools of analytics or with anything, if there is enough signal that we can capture. But fortunately, in a remote environment, we don't have possibility to just like watch over the shoulder how somebody works and notice some things. So usually it comes from going to the meeting with clients and like hearing some what they see, what they like, what they dislike, telling how they thought something would be obvious for them, whether they would click or what information would expect. And when working with especially legal teams, I you will get a lot that something doesn't work, and then there has to be a way to see, okay, what is expected. It's because we only the not working signal. It's to try, like, okay, we can explore and we can go for, okay, explore, then evaluate the best potential candidate. But again, that takes time. That is some kind of framework. And we could jump straight at something that we can show, okay, is this example you like? And then get feedback on that. Then we can move further. And many times I
Yeah.
had some ideas or some vision how something might work because it makes sense for me. But then when confronting that with client or with customer, like any kind of feedback, okay, like okay, I need to do it differently because this is what somebody else is expecting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Like we're creating all these really advanced ML models and systems, and um, getting in front of someone face to face, person to person, is still one of the most powerful tools out there in developing a really great product, which is obviously free.
So sometimes I had the cases like, okay, can we maybe gouge some answers that our chatbot is giving? And that was, for example, preparation for, okay, if we meet with client, can we get a gist of what is their experience from features, including the AI, and can we get some idea, okay, is it mostly answering the question, or maybe we have some misses there, and maybe we can get some idea with analytics what topics they are asking about, and then like understanding the behavior. And if in anything that anybody is building, understanding the behavior is the first things probably somebody is maximizing to get the signal from the behavior and from the data for the iteration. And then I would notice that, yeah, somebody would ask the AI chatbot to maybe enable notifications because I would never thought about building that, but somebody's asking about, hey, can the chatbot already use some, like push some buttons for me in the tool that they are using, which also was kind of hilarious. Or if they fail that maybe they have constructed very, very, very complicated prompt, and even another lawyer could not really know how to answer that complex question because there's just
Yeah.
too many threads in that. So then again, it comes, okay, what is interesting, like what people think the AI would do for them, and even the AI perception is much different since ChatGPT release because, yeah, from the market fit navigation, there was one anecdote that Lex AI had no chatbot yet integrated. So you couldn't log in and chat about legal, like, please find me some legal regulation and answer it. There is some penalty, let's say. So we had the metadata part in AI and the summarization for summaries in AI, but that was more of the back office. And when my co-founder went to the meeting, like, he's a serious guy. He met with some other serious lawyers. They have very high voice about, like, can you show us what we can do with Lex AI? He showed how it Lex AI, and they have very, very simple question. It's Lex with AI in the name. Show us AI. And he was a bit baffled, like, yeah, like we have here, like this is our like service. We have some AI summary. No, no, no. Show us the AI. And they were expecting the perception of the chat with the AI chatbot since ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So after
Yeah.
hearing that, I was like, yeah, good
uh,
point. Even if that's silly, sometimes we have to make something just so people can see the proof that we have this under the hood. And what I did was on a Friday, had that story, and I pulled some of the examples that I've seen about the RAGs. And by Monday, I said, hey, if anybody asks about the AI, here is the internal chatbot that I combined with some latest news and show them this, and this should be good answer. So yeah, we have this AI. And again, we'll need to build more based on what somebody would like to ask it. Then like, it's not that easy, but this would be something that we can then show already and build this ship while we need to sail based on the feedback.
yeah. I think first of all, it's amazing that that I think that just testament to how you're embracing life as a startup founder, and you're getting feedback on the Friday and you're shipping the feature by the Monday. That's That's great. And I guess the next part will be how people are defining AI and AGI. There's seen a lot out there, and people arguing on technicalities of what things mean. So um, cool. Okay. And yeah, just moving on to the last couple of parts about Lex, and let's move on to culture. I know, there's a classic mime out there that says, don't hire Google engineers because they'll over engineer everything. What truth is behind that? And do you think
So if
you know,
my co-founders
it should be about shipping
would
over
follow
perfection?
this meme and this, like, this is a strong statement I could put on LinkedIn to generate discussions. If my co-founders would follow it, they wouldn't partner with me, basically. Yeah, so if they were to take this advice. But yeah, it's, I think the Google engineers are the start of the brilliant minds and brilliant like software engineers out there. And a couple of my friends are indeed working at Google, and they are pretty good at algorithms, map, and many other things. But I think you could imagine why somebody might be a good engineer, what makes them. So sometimes it's just because somebody is brilliant in terms of the STEAM subjects and they can navigate that and they can that's their element. But sometimes it's also that somebody might be like in civil engineering. They would like to build the biggest cannon that can shoot into the low orbit the satellites, and that's their ambition. They would like to build this project they like from heart, they love, and then they look for opportunities to build that. And then they may be so much focused on the solution that they don't really consider other aspects, or like they like to build the perfect system, and many other aspects might not come into their mind first without reinforcing. So this might be the same case for the uh, big tech. Many times we have the perfect opportunities to craft beautiful systems, like the most performant systems, or that you can nerd snipe that, hey, like we have the best this or that. And there are a lot of tools, a lot of other brilliant colleagues to help with that. But then, like at these companies, optimizing something by but fraction of percent is a big impact. But at startup, many times we're optimizing for existing even. So, and there is other part to the, I think this big tech culture that, from the business perspective, from the finance perspective, if we we prefer to the tools or the software that we built internally is like uh, not built here syndrome, because many times if anybody usually takes a decision to build or buy a big tech, when it comes to scaling to millions or even billions of people, the licensing would be pretty much. So even spending 3 months on building something in house sounds like a better deal than buying it and then facing the risk of very high licensing cost. So for that reason, or for the promotional reason, like if I find this like nitpick on some edge cases and that would allow me to build something that works better for our fraction of percent improvement and impact, then I will get the promotion, and this will be something that's my evidence that what my brilliance needs to be rewarded. And for these also organizational problems, probably this is why these people optimize for cleverness, being brilliant, building beautiful systems, which at the startup environment that somebody will put, it's optimizing for revenue or optimizing for runaway, which means existing, or how fast we can build something that maybe is not yet perfect or just exists and we can, as a prototype, put in front of somebody to learn more before we are prepared for scalability and scale of thousands of. So many times somebody will argue that yes, we need to spend a couple more months to prepare for the next phase of scaling to number of people, but what if these people, these users will never come? That's the other risk. Everybody would like to be comfortable that the system wouldn't break. But if anybody wouldn't predict that they have a scalable system and then introduce many users, then this is the pain of growth and patching it and making it scaling as you go, as you have these outages or whatnot. So this is the growing pain that not always you can predict, not always it is a good idea even to prepare for sometimes. And this is what I would say the happy accident if it happens. We can't really guard for everything when building something new, and we want to be faster because of reasons.
It makes total sense. But as you said at the start of the podcast, kind of like mindset and building things quickly within a startup so important, and yeah, not always time for that perfection. Okay, I'm moving on to the kind of last question in terms of the legal tech. What, as we kind of said, it potentially can be conservative at times, the legal tech industry, for obvious and right reasons. What's your thoughts on where the sector's headed with AI in the next kind of 6 months to 2 years? And I know with how fast technology is changing in AI that no one can really predict, which makes it part of the fun. Let's see how right or wrong we were in 6 months.
So, as mentioned, I think that one point last week, many passwords come over and over, let's say from the visionaries in the Silicon Valley, but it's not easy to adopt them that fast at the, let's say, consumer corporation level. Like, of course, it's for individual easy to sign on to ChatGPT, but it's not easy to convert the workflow. So again, as with preparing data for any kind of training, here we need to prepare the workflow for the AI use. So I think there will be that much uh, not that much breakthrough in terms of AI. So hopefully the tools will gradually get better and there will be more adoption. But I would also focus more on the people side. So how these people will behave using these tools. And I hope there won't be not much fear about, okay, is this AI going to replace me? And rather it would be more, okay, I now have more time for something else than the simple dictionary write, or I will get much better searching thanks to integration of AI. And also this depends on the region, I think. So US, usually the law works differently, so there is more places for spectacular cases because of the precedence law. Uh, so maybe there could be some more news that somebody used new AI setup to find the work, like to do the work of maybe hundreds of interns just by looking through the documents. And that was already done somewhere, so probably there will be more cases like this, maybe more spectacular, more easy to write story about. I think in Europe it will be more gradual in terms of like going through layers and layers of EU, then the national, and maybe nearby jurisdictions, and hopefully there will be more adoption there. Another topic that is silent but very very like work heavy is, for example, internal policies. So internal policies like are thousands of internal documents that describe how things should work or what are the standard operating procedures. And updating these manually is a lot of work. Hopefully there also this could be done easier and faster without breaking any privacy. So I hope also anybody using the services will not see any data breaches, let's say, hey, some documents leaked, because this is another very high concern, especially in Germany.
Cool. Okay. Uh, that's pretty much it for the legal tech section. Thanks so much for sharing Lex AI and what it is you're building. Really appreciate that. In terms of just the last couple of questions, just a bit of fun in terms of sharing a bit of knowledge. As a founder, obviously, time is very precious to you. Are there any AI tools, agents, or workflows that help you keep you really productive at the moment?
So many good engineers stepping into startup mode, also getting burned out. So I think that that's the first challenge. Even if best AI assistant, it's would be better not to burn out or not to suffer from overworking. That may happen with too many things, and it's pretty overwhelming, I would say, at times. So the prioritization is the first part, and then having the like matching the energy, the workload, and there is pretty no again best way for everybody. So finding everyone's good energy distribution over the day, or how to uh, prepare for marathon with good energy, like with good sleep, with good life habits, is something very beneficial. And that actually, yeah,
Yeah,
for me it works till now. So I try to manage, for example, working hours when I have the energy for it, or like when I have the like best like moment for thinking or whatnot. And yeah, for me that's evening usually. So so contrary to maybe some Amazon
yeah.
guides or whatnot.
It's a really good point, and yeah, it's a really good point, and one that I wasn't expecting you to say. But as a solo founder myself, I can relate, and um, yeah, knowing when to work and when not to is the key to longevity in the startup game. But I think there's so much information out there in terms of
Yeah,
startups, founders in San Francisco working 7 days a week, and like you say, I think you put it perfectly. It's about what works for you. And, I've certainly worked weekends before, but I value taking time out and think we should normalize that more rather than the
yes.
grind culture.
I've seen there's 996 in China. It, you can do it, but everybody does it and nobody is ahead actually. So this can fall short. And like if anybody in Silicon Valley does it, cool. If depending if you're young, if you have nothing to spare, you like being productive, or if you like it, do it. But I've also seen some solo founders in other industries that would do maybe like 3 days of hackathon mode and then 2 days uh, uh, of relax, of getting the energy back, and then again like 3 intense days, and so it works differently for anybody. And yeah, for example, yeah, if you can imagine, I don't drink coffee because yes, but then I realized the way I really drink my beverage is very similar to Pomodoro. So then again, like helps to break from some cycles, and with that comes like the time, yeah, how to manage the time, and usually if you can delegate some things to save the time, that's usually good. But for example, I've never seen good meeting summarizer from transcriptions that would work for me because that was making apparently more text that I need to digest, understand, and this heavier workload for me to comprehend, among many things. So, but there comes some AI
Mm.
tools. True, I do use some AI, even ChatGPT sometimes to do some research, like because it's searching over the web pages much faster than I can, that I would do sometimes back in the day to open like 10 tabs and then digest what is there. So it's good for like surface research, or it's good sometimes to like if we have some meeting uh, notes or whatnot, then structure it in more, for example, product driven ways. So have some extension of me that could do brief product management for one or the other part, just to get the structure good. And so we can see if we don't have any gaps that we need to discuss. So having this assistant sometimes beneficial. And I use also the coding tools. So it's not entirely like pipe coding, but as I discussed it with my friends, it's more of the, again, more strategical thinking. So I know what I need to build in what steps, and then I can see, okay, if this can be helped to maybe fast forward faster to the next step that I have on the checklist. So it's not really like missing all the
Yeah.
all the authentication on other hosts, because with enough knowledge we know how to build things. And sometimes it's like pair programming, sometimes it's a trade-off with freelancer. If I were to give that task to team member or somebody and get the code that I with some fixes or some later stage sculpting that I could do and refine it. Sometimes it also is rubbish, so it's not, I can accept every change that I get. And I think already somebody noticed that if you try coding with prompts, pretty much first answer will be always rubbish that you need to reject or tweak or whatnot. But if the context is good, if managing what we need to give any kind of coding assistant, what kind of code samples, what are parts of the project to digest, sometimes it can actually work quite well. And I think even to extend that, like I have a friend that is also managing IT team, and he realized that, he would move from senior engineers to junior engineers and use these coding tools inside. And apparently, he got better result and he built something in half year than he would for 2 years with some external agency, because he had, again, better integration inside, better feedback inside than like lengthy sessions, feedback sessions with customer success with somebody external that doesn't have that internal incentive. So apparently, in that case, people
Nice.
may see, okay, like junior or AI assistant, and debate which one is better. The takeaway is both, because we need an operator that can adapt, and we need a machine that can help them to operate faster.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't sound too dissimilar from a founder friend of mine, a little bit different, but one of his processes now for managing his team is, go and put it through free coding assistants or agents and then ask him to review it
Yeah.
and not before. So, yeah. Um, Okay, and in terms of a book or an idea or a podcast that's not the NeuralPod that may have shaped your approach to leadership and innovation, is there any kind of papers or books, as I say, that have really helped refine how you think or how you approach the world?
So when we think about the IT, computer science, 3 years ago, is already feels pretty much old. But I still think some
Yeah.
older reads are pretty very much up to date, because on the technical side, books may be outdated over the 1 year even, but on the people side, I think the mentality or some organization behaviors are still update even in the matter of 100 years. So I'm fascinated how much many parts of the mythical mammoth from 70s still are up to date. How the, for example, nerd leadership works still after 50 years. Like some that you can, that you
What's that?
can
Sorry, say that
score
again.
the respect points by solving something hard, and people who are into engineering will really they will appreciate it. And then, still over the time, I come back to Joe Spolsky blog with the stories he has from Microsoft from 2000s. And still many of these games, I think, are very up to date until today. And over time, from more of the creation of something interesting and managing or like noticing things as a manager, I think the Creativity Inc. at Catmull is close to my heart, because I like the story. I appreciate Ed's contribution to the graphics of within my interest in graphics, and that was very well explained how they also not only wanted to build things, but also how they wanted to manage the relationships with Steve Jobs. Like it's debatable if people like them or not, but he, as the manager of the Pixar division, had to deal with Jobs, and then he also had to navigate the relationship with much bigger, you would think, like very big players like Disney, and how to try not to compete with them, but to create something with them, and then create the movies together. And they start really, really small, as it's very small in that case.
Nice. Okay. And final question. Outside of legal tech, which I know you're super passionate about, what AI and ML trends are you most excited for? And just to tag a mini question onto that, where do you think the next big breakthrough in AI will come from?
That's really hard to tell, but what I notice is that, like, funny, even a recent change was that people accuse recently ChatGPT 5 to be less polite. What I found that ChatGPT 5 is it's quite okay, but the 4 was so sugar coating that it was hard to stand. And I think this it was too
It
nice.
was too nice for you.
And I think there is some trend, and probably it's not different than any other service actually, because if you notice in social media, they optimize for revenue, which means they optimize for the content you like, and then they put you in your bubble of the information you like to get to stay there. And I'm afraid that this will be the route for the like mass market AI models like OpenAI. If they want to be liked by everybody and be popular, they might be optimized the same way as we've seen the recommender engines for social media have been optimized over. So this is one of the, I think, uh, for me, negative trends. Yeah, for maybe social media, positive trends because they know how to optimize it for revenue. So this is one thing. Another thing is that
Hmm.
we we've seen one wave with ML, we've seen next wave with like ChatGPT. I think that we may be experiencing some compound of many smaller waves, and uh, like I'm really interested why we don't have yet so much video gen wave, because when I look at the or ByteDance or Google models, or even the not so recent, I think that was the Chinese manufacturer, I can't recall at the moment, but they would create a short video that could be worthy of the movie release of like Pixar shorts entirely with Gen AI, and the quality they are getting approaching to, that's pretty striking. So this is something that I don't know why it's so silent. And if you think
Yeah.
about it more,
Do you, would you go and see, me going a bit off topic here, but would you go and see a movie that's completely AI generated, even if the story was good? Um, and I guess you might go and see it for the novelty at first, but then I don't know, surely there's something to be said about going to see one of your favorite actors in a movie.
true, true. But I think this border is not yet so distant in black and white again, because we already with the this is the like the
Mm.
trend that I see, and maybe next disruption. Uh, Already we've seen artists complaining that ChatGPT and other similar models were stealing the artwork because they just crawled all the internet, including the not licensed work of arts from artists, and they can replicate the style. And we already seen that like the AI gen is applying first to the fields that have less error factor. So let's say if something fails that or they are not 100% correct, that's not that severe. So we've had Elon Musk predicting, like promising the car within next 3 years, but because of the criticality of the like its lethal weapon, and this lethality, if anything breaks, the responsibility for that is hard question, and nobody wants to ask it yet, like respond to that yet, solve it. But we have that with generating text, generating AI slab for LinkedIn. Nobody bats an eye. We have that for generating images, because if there's a number of pixels are off, nobody cares. We have that for AI code because that can be easily verified with one test if that runs and compiles. And for the graphics, again, but we have so many visual effects studios around the world. And unfortunately, in that business, it's about the cost of production to get it lower. And a lot of that work was already outsourced to Asia, like India or Philippines. And this could be the next place where, if we use the AI tools, this workload, this workforce may not need to be needed as many. So maybe if we will not even realize, because we already have seen some actors that we liked, but they were done entirely in CG, or like some actors passed away that were revived with CG. But if we add some AI tooling in,
Yeah.
let's say, compositing or uh, like masking, there is, I think, is much better like visual effects style jargon for it. But these are the very labor consuming areas that probably will be first introduced to AI or Gen AI to generate, not by hand, but by the automation. And probably gradually we'll see more and more such effects. And of course, it won't be whole, like the full Gen AI movie was show off that, hey, we can do it. In production, that probably will still adopt with some percentage, and yeah, we might not even realize that half of that was actually from Gen AI, and we liked it.
Yeah. It's a really interesting point, and I think it'll be super interesting just to bring it back to the legal space where the copyright line falls on a lot of this stuff. I know Anthropic got the legal case right now with all of the book sites eating up into its models, and um, yeah, time will tell, I guess, if we're watching AI generated movies this time next year with Tom Cruise
Always,
in or
always
not.
young.
Yeah. But that's it for today, Michal. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge. I've really enjoyed speaking to you today and getting to know you more, and Lex, and some of the amazing things that you're doing over there. So thank
Thank you
you
again for
for
having me.
joining us.
So I hope there will be some interesting insights from that anybody can learn. And yeah, looking forward to your series of podcasts to next guests.
Thank you, Michal.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks so much.